United States is stepping up military cooperation with Nigeria, and this time, the focus is not simply on putting more soldiers on the ground. American forces are now training Nigerian troops in unmanned aircraft systems, battlefield medical care, weapons familiarization, explosive ordnance disposal, and small unit tactics. The question is, what does this new level of training mean for Nigeria's fight against terrorism, banditry, and other armed threats, especially after the United States withdrew most of their troops from Nigeria earlier this year? The latest development comes from Bauchi State, where U.S. and Nigerian military personnel have been conducting a series of joint training activities designed to strengthen Nigeria's military capability and improve cooperation between the two countries. According to the United States Africa Command, the training is taking place at operating location Bauchi, and the range of skills being taught is significant. Nigerian troops have received instructions in combat lifesaver and tactical combat casualty care. They have trained in weapons familiarization, camouflage, water treatment and testing, explosive ordnance disposal, small unit tactics, and unmanned aircraft systems. This is not just classroom instruction. American personnel are putting Nigerian troops through practical exercises designed to give them hands-on experience. One area that has generated particular interest in unmanned aircraft systems, commonly known as drones. For modern military operations, drones can provide commanders with information from areas that may be difficult or dangerous for troops to reach. They can help forces observe terrain, gather intelligence, and improve situational awareness before personnel move into an area. At Bauchi, a U.S. military instructor, Sergeant Mark Murphy, led about 10 members of the Nigerian Air Force Special Forces Regiment through UAS training. The section reportedly began with classroom instruction before Nigerian personnel were given the opportunity to operate the aircraft themselves. That practical component is important. Rather than simply explaining how the technology works, the Nigerian personnel were taught how to employ the systems and how information gathered from them could be incorporated into military operations. According to the U.S. report, the Nigerian troops were particularly enthusiastic about the hands-on training and expressed interest in receiving additional instruction. That detail may be one of the most important parts of the entire development. Nigeria has been fighting several security challenges across different regions of the country, from terrorism in the northeast to banditry and kidnapping in the northwest, and other forms of armed criminality elsewhere. The military therefore needs capabilities that can improve surveillance, intelligence gathering, battlefield coordination, and the protection of its own personnel. This is where the American training becomes significant. The U.S. is not simply transferring equipment or sending personnel to operate independently. Instead, the focus is increasingly on building the capacity of Nigerian forces themselves. U.S. officials involved in the Bauchi program said Nigerian military leadership was presented with different training options, allowing Nigerian commanders to select areas they consider most useful. That means the program is being shaped partly around the needs identified by Nigeria. Captain Gabriel Fingold, a logistics officer assigned to the U.S. Army Southern European Task Force, Africa, said the American side provides a range of possible training topics and Nigerian personnel select the areas they believe would be most beneficial. That approach could make the cooperation more targeted. It also reflects a broader shift in the U.S.-Nigeria security relationship. Back in July, AFRICOM disclosed that the United States had withdrawn most of the troops it has deployed to Nigeria for a specific counter-terrorism operation. At first glance, such a withdrawal could have raised questions about whether Washington was reducing its security commitment to Nigeria. But the latest development tells a different story. The US may have reduced its direct troop presence while continuing to invest in intelligence sharing, military cooperation, and Nigerian force development. In other words, fewer American boots on the ground does not necessarily mean less American involvement. The relationship is increasingly focused on helping Nigerian forces develop capabilities that they can use themselves. And that distinction matters. Nigeria remains responsible for securing its own territory, protecting its communities, and confronting armed groups operating within its borders. The United States can provide expertise, technology, training, and intelligence cooperation, but Nigerian forces ultimately have to translate those capabilities into results on the ground. The Bauchi training also goes beyond weapons and technology. American and Nigerian service members are being given opportunities to interact at a personal level. U.S. officials say these relationships can improve interoperability between the two forces, particularly among personnel operating at lower levels. That may sound less dramatic than drone training or tactical combat casualty care, but it can be extremely important during joint operations. When soldiers from two countries understand how each other operates, communicate more effectively, and develop trust, cooperation can become faster and more effective. Even activities such as basketball and volleyball have reportedly been used when operational commitments and weather conditions allow. The message is clear. The partnership is being built not only through military exercises, but also through relationships. Yet the real test will come outside the training environment. Nigeria has received military training and international security assistance for years. The question is whether improved training will translate into improved security for ordinary Nigerians. Can better intelligence help prevent attacks? Can drone technology help troops locate armed groups operating in difficult terrain? Can improved battlefield medical training save the lives of Nigerian soldiers wounded during operations? Can stronger cooperation help disrupt kidnapping and terrorism networks before they strike? Those are the outcomes that Nigerians will ultimately judge. The American training comes at a time when Nigeria continues to face a complex security environment. Different threats require different responses. Terrorist groups operate in some areas. Bandits and kidnappers operate across borders. There are also weapons trafficking networks and criminal groups that exploit remote terrain and weak security infrastructure. That means the Nigerian military needs more than one solution. It needs intelligence. It needs technology. It needs properly trained personnel. It needs rapid medical response. It needs effective coordination. And it needs the ability to turn information into action. The unmanned aircraft training at Bauchi is therefore more than a demonstration of new technology. It represents an attempt to give Nigerian forces another tool in a security environment where information can determine whether an operation succeeds or fails. For the United States, the partnership also has strategic importance. Nigeria is one of Africa's most important countries, both in population and regional influence. Instability in Nigeria can have consequences beyond its borders, particularly when terrorism, organized crime, legal arms trafficking, and other forms of insecurity cross national boundaries. That makes a capable Nigerian security force important not only to Nigeria, but also to regional stability. The next stage will be watching whether the training expands. AFRICOM says additional training opportunities are already being developed at Bauchi as American and Nigerian forces identify further areas where they can share expertise. So the story has not ended with the latest exercise. It could mark another phase in a changing US-Nigeria security partnership, one built less around a large American troop presence and more around Nigerian forces gaining the skills, technology, and knowledge needed to handle security threats themselves. The message from Bauchi is therefore straightforward. America may have pulled back some troops, but the military relationship with Nigeria is not disappearing. It is evolving. And if the training being delivered today can eventually help Nigerian forces see threats earlier, respond faster, and operate more effectively, the impact could extend far beyond the training ground. The real question is no longer simply how much assistance Nigeria receives. It is what Nigeria does with it. For more updates, stay with us on News Express. I am Cassie Tony.